A tiny airplane, 2 men, and a mission that wasn't just life-threatening, but on that day looked almost impossible. The bizarre dream of a Las Vegas hotel owner to keep a plane in the air without touching the ground, not for hours, not 4 days, but for months. And the problem wasn't only about fuel. This was a story of sleepless nights, the freezing December air, and a delicate balance between life and death. But the question is, did these 2 pilots actually succeed in breaking this nearly impossible record? Or did their aircraft vanish forever into the endless sky? This is one of those strange chapters of history that has long been buried in forgotten books. Welcome back once again to Amir TV Videos. In 1956, Warren Bailey opened a hotel in Las Vegas. Unlike the city's other massive casinos and hotels, his place Hacienda was more down to earth, attracting ordinary working-class people. It was affordable, which made it popular among locals. But because the profits were thin, Bailey kept searching for new ways to promote his business. One day, his friend Bob Tim, a former Army pilot, suggested a bold idea. Break a world record, and Hacienda would get instant fame. What he had in mind was an endurance flight record, keeping an airplane in the air, not just for days, but for months without landing. Warren liked the sound of it, but could such a thing really be done? To understand, we need to rewind history a little. When airplanes were first invented, their flight times were measured in seconds. For pilots and mechanics, the big question was, how long can this machine stay aloft? As aircraft developed, so did their endurance, but eventually the limit became fuel. In 1923, the U.S. Army solved this by successfully refueling one plane mid-air from another. Soon after, the first endurance record was set. A DH-4B aircraft remained airborne for 37 hours, refueling 9 times. This sparked an endurance flight craze. America was hooked. In 1929 alone, the record was broken 5 different times. But by the time Bob Tim pitched the idea to Bailey, the excitement had faded. It was no longer about engines or fuel tanks. It was about testing the endurance of the human body. Bob's challenge was to surpass the record of 1949, when 2 Navy pilots had flown in Aeronca sedan nonstop for 46 days. Their story had made national headlines. Warren saw this as the perfect promotion for his hotel and asked Bob to take on the mission. After all, he was a seasoned World War II pilot. Bob bought a Cessna 172 from McCarran Field and brought in a mechanic to modify it. The co-pilot's seat was removed. Since Bob couldn't possibly manage such a mission solo, he needed another pilot. The plan was simple. They would alternate one flying while the other rested on a foam pad where the seat once was. They also pulled out the rear bench, replacing it with an 8-square-foot storage space. A tiny sink was installed for sponge baths in the cramped 4-foot-high cabin. A 95-gallon belly tank was added under the aircraft, along with an electric winch to haul up fuel hoses during refueling. To make things easier, the co-pilot's door was swapped with a folding one, leading directly to the belly tank port. In those days, climbing out of a plane mid-flight wasn't just a movie stunt, it was actually done. To reduce the danger, they added a fold-out platform outside the door, giving them a place to stand while connecting the hose. They tweaked the engine as well, and painted Hacienda in giant letters across the fuselage. The mission's entire purpose was hotel publicity. Then came the test flights in the summer of 1958, and with them came trouble. Bob and his first co-pilot didn't get along. They argued constantly. After 3 failed launches, Bob let him go. Around that same time, 2 other pilots, Jim Heath and Bill Burkhart, managed to set a new record of 50 days in the air with a Cessna 172. By December, Bob had solved the technical problems and teamed up with a new co-pilot, John Cook. On December 4, 1958, the 2 officially took off under the watch of Fédération Aéronautique Internationale, FAI, officials. To prevent cheating, They briefly touched down so the tires could be painted with special white paint. If they landed secretly, the paint would scrape off. Their first refueling happened 12 hours later. The method was extremely risky. The Cessna flew only 20 feet above a speeding fuel truck on the highway. At 100 kilometers per hour, the plane just barely matched the truck's pace. John dropped the winch, the ground crew attached the hose, and it was pulled up to the belly tank. A single mistake could have been fatal. To break the 50-day record, they'd have to repeat this over 100 times. At first, they circled Las Vegas in case of emergency landings. Later, they expanded to California's deserts. High altitudes saved fuel, but froze the cabin. Low altitudes were warmer, but dangerous at night with mountains and clouds. Over time, Bob and John built a close friendship. They passed time reading, exercising, and chatting. Refueling also brought them more than fuel. They pulled up water, engine oil, and hot meals prepared by Hacienda's chef. And what about the toilet? They carried a folding camp toilet seat with waste bags. Those bags, as John's wife later revealed, were discreetly dumped over California's deserts. After 36 days, fatigue became crushing. They even spent New Year's Eve inside the plane. One night, Bob fell asleep at the controls minutes before John's shift. He slept for over an hour while the plane, on autopilot, drifted dangerously into a canyon at low altitude. If he hadn't woken in time, the mission and their lives would have ended there. Then, on January 12th, day 39, the generator failed. No more radio, no lights, no electric pump. A small wind-driven turbine was set up, but it barely powered the radios. From then on, fuel had to be pumped by hand. Night refueling became even riskier, solved only by strapping a flashlight to the winch and using a lead truck with a searchlight. The problems piled up: fuel gauge failure, tachometer breakdown, engine carbon buildup. But on January 23rd, after 50 days, they officially broke the world record. Hacienda finally got the publicity Warren had dreamed of. He even arranged for a photographer in another plane to capture shots, including one of John pretending to clean the windshield in mid-flight. The photos were splashed across newspapers nationwide. Still, Bob and John didn't land. They pushed further, flying another 2 weeks. Finally, on February 7, 1959, after 64 days, 22 hours, 19 minutes, and 5 seconds, they landed back at McCarran Field. A huge crowd awaited them: journalists, officials, supporters, John's family, and the Hacienda staff. The two pilots were so weak, they couldn't leave the plane without help. Inspectors confirmed the tire paint was still intact, proving the record was real. In 2015, the FAI officially stopped recognizing endurance flight records because of the extreme danger, which means Bob, Tim, and John Cook's achievement will stand unbroken forever. The very Cessna 172 they flew still hangs today in Terminal 1 McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas, silently telling its story to travelers who pass by. I hope you will also give lots of likes and shares to this video of Amir TV and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for your loving comments. See you in the next amazing video. Until then, take great care of yourself and your family.